The scar on my abdomen always feels more prominent when I'm scrubbing in for surgery. Today, as I methodically cleaned my hands and forearms, I could practically feel it burning through my scrubs, a constant reminder of why I became a surgeon in the first place. My name is Charlotte, and I've spent the last 15 years trying to become everything my mother isn't. The irony that we're both surgeons isn't lost on me. Dr. Peters? Cadence, my favorite OR nurse, poked her head through the door. There's an urgent call for you at the nurse's station. I frowned, drying my hands. I'm about to start Mr. Rodriguez's procedure. It's about an emergency admission. They said it's important. At the nurse's station, I picked up the phone, expecting the usual consult request. Instead, the voice on the other end made my blood run cold. Charlotte, your mother's been admitted. She's asking for you specifically. The fluorescent light suddenly seemed too bright. I haven't spoken to her in 12 years, I managed to say. She's in pretty bad shape. Suspected abdominal aortic aneurysm, given her history as a surgeon here. I cut him off. I'll be right there. Marcus caught up with me in the hallway, his tall frame easily matching my hurried pace. Charlotte, wait up. I heard about Violet. Then you know I can't treat her, I said, pushing through the double doors. It's a conflict of interest. Is it because she's your mother, or because of what she did to you? I stopped abruptly, turning to face him. Both. Neither. I don't know. My hand instinctively went to my abdomen, where the jagged scar tissue told its own story. She used expired sutures on her own daughter to save money, Marcus. Who does that? The same woman who's now lying in bed 3, looking like death warmed over? He said gently. I reached the room and froze in the doorway. The woman in the bed barely resembled the towering figure from my memories. Violet's once perfect hair was streaked with gray, her face lined with pain. Her eyes flickered open. Charlotte. Mother. The word felt foreign on my tongue. Still so formal, she whispered, attempting a smile that looked more like a grimace. I suppose I deserve that. Before I could respond, the monitors started beeping. Her blood pressure was dropping. Get me a portable ultrasound. I barked at the nearest nurse, my training kicking in despite everything. As I pressed the probe to her abdomen, the image confirmed my fears. The aneurysm was massive. How bad? Violet asked, her surgeon's instincts still sharp. Bad enough that we don't have time for another surgeon to take over, I replied, already reaching for my phone to call the OR. Then it has to be you, she said, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength. Karma's quite the comedian, isn't it? I pulled away, stepping back. This isn't about karma, this is about medicine. Charlotte, Marcus called from the doorway. Or 2 is ready. As the team rushed to prep her for surgery, I stood there, frozen in place. The last time I'd been in an operating room with my mother, I was 12 years old and terrified. Now I would be the one holding the scalpel. Dr. Peters? Cadence appeared at my elbow. What should I tell Mr. Rodriguez's team? The question snapped me back to reality. Get Dr. Williams to take over his case. And Cadence? I added as she turned to leave. I need you in OR 2 with me. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. I've got your back. I walked to the sink to scrub in again, my movements mechanical. The scar tingled, as if recognizing the proximity of its creator. Through the window, I could see them positioning my mother on the operating table, the same table where she'd performed countless surgeries, including mine. Marcus appeared beside me, already scrubbed. I can assist if you want. I need you to, I admitted, staring at my hands under the running water. Because right now, I'm not sure if I want to save her or... That's exactly why I'm here, he interrupted. To make sure you do the right thing. The right thing, I echoed. I've spent my whole career doing the right thing, being better than her. And now you'll do it again, he said firmly. Because that's who you are. The scrub nurse helped me into my gown and gloves. As I approached the operating table, my mother's eyes found mine before the anesthesia took hold. Don't do what I would do, she murmured, then drifted into unconsciousness. I picked up the scalpel, its weight familiar yet somehow different. Scalpel to skin, I announced, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Time to find out what kind of surgeon, what kind of person I really am. The operating room felt different with my mother on the table. Every instrument I touched seemed to carry the weight of our shared history, every monitor beep echoing with memories I'd rather forget. BP's dropping, Cadence announced, her eyes fixed on the monitors. More volume, I ordered, my hands steady as I made the initial incision. Marcus, what do you see? He leaned in closer, his mask crinkling with concentration. The imaging wasn't lying. This aneurysm is massive. As we worked, the familiar dance of surgery took over. My hands moved with practiced precision, but each time I glanced at my mother's face, partially hidden behind the surgical draping, I saw flashes of that day 24 years ago. Remember when you used to watch me operate? My mother's voice echoed from the past. Today you'll learn an important lesson about being practical in medicine. The memory made my hand twitch slightly. You okay? Marcus asked quietly. Fine, I replied, refocusing on the task at hand. Let's get proximal control. Just then, the monitors screamed in protest. Pressure's crashing, Cadence called out. She's bleeding out. Clamp, now, I demanded, my voice sharp with urgency. Blood was pooling faster than we could suction it away. More suction. I need to see what I'm doing. Charlotte, Marcus warned. We're losing her. Not on my table, I growled, my fingers moving with desperate precision. Not like this. The next few minutes were a blur of calculated movements and rapid decisions. Every skill I'd learned, every technique I'd mastered, it all came down to this moment. My mother's life literally in my hands. BP stabilizing, Cadence finally announced, relief evident in her voice. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Okay, let's close her up. And I want hourly checks in recovery. After surgery, I stood at the scrub sink, mechanically washing my hands. Marcus appeared beside me. That was impressive work in there, he said, studying my face. You okay? I just saved the life of someone who nearly ruined mine, I replied, turning off the water with more force than necessary. I don't know what I am. You're a doctor who just did her job exceptionally well, he countered. Everything else is just complicated? I finished for him, drying my hands. You weren't there, Marcus. You didn't feel the cheap sutures she used, didn't live with the infection that followed. Dr. Peters? A young resident interrupted us, looking nervous. Your mother's awake. She's asking for you. I found her in recovery, looking small against the white hospital sheets. Her eyes were clearer now, focused intently on me as I approached. You've gotten better at your sutures, she said, her voice hoarse. I had to. The words came out sharper than intended. She winced, though whether from physical or emotional pain I couldn't tell. I suppose I deserved that. You deserve a lot of things, I said, checking her vitals. But right now, you need to rest. Wait. She caught my hand, her grip weak but insistent. There's something you need to know about that day. Before she could continue, the monitors started beeping erratically again. Her face contorted in pain. What's happening? She gasped. I quickly examined her abdomen. It was rigid, distended. Get me an ultrasound stat. I called to the nearest nurse. The image confirmed my fears. Internal bleeding. We'd missed something. You're bleeding internally, I explained, already moving to call the OR. We need to go back in. No. She grabbed my arm. Not you. Get someone else. There's no time, I snapped. Unless you prefer to bleed out while waiting for another surgeon? Her eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of dying, but of something else entirely. Charlotte, she whispered, what I did to you. It wasn't just about money. The transport team burst in before she could finish, and we were racing back to the OR. As they prepared her for surgery again, Marcus appeared at my side. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "Dr. Williams is available now." I shook my head, already reaching for a surgical mask. "She started this story. I'm going to finish it." As the anesthesia took hold, my mother's last words echoed in my head. What did she mean? It wasn't just about money? What other possible reason could there have been for using expired sutures on her own daughter? "BP's dropping again," Cadence announced as we began. "This is worse than before." I took a deep breath, pushing aside the questions swirling in my mind. "More light," I ordered, picking up the scalpel. "And someone page Mila Bradley in pathology. Tell her it's urgent. If anyone knew the truth about my mother's past decisions, it would be Mila." She'd been there that day, a young intern watching from the corner as my mother made the choice that would change both our lives forever. But first, I had to keep her alive long enough to get answers. The second surgery was successful, but the questions it left behind weighed heavier than any scalpel. I sat in my office, poring over my mother's medical records when Mila walked in, her lab coat still on and her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. "I came as soon as I could," she said, closing the door behind her. "How is she?" "Stable for now." I pushed the records aside. "I need you to tell me what happened that day, Mila. The whole truth." Mila sank into the chair across from me, her face troubled. "I was hoping we'd never have to have this conversation. My mother just told me it wasn't about money. What did she mean?" Before Mila could answer, Marcus knocked and entered. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." He handed me a tablet displaying my mother's latest blood work. "This can't be right," I muttered, scanning the numbers. "Run it again." "Already did. Twice." Mila leaned over to look. "Those markers, Charlotte, they indicate long-term exposure to—" "I know what they indicate." I cut her off. "The question is, how long has she known?" The door burst open again, this time revealing Cadence. "Dr. Peters, your mother's asking for you. She's agitated and her pressure's climbing." I stood up. "Mila, don't go anywhere. This conversation isn't over." In my mother's room, the monitors were indeed showing elevated readings. She was trying to sit up despite the fresh surgical incisions. "You need to lie still," I ordered, moving to adjust her position. "Did you look at my blood work?" she demanded, grabbing my wrist. "Yes." "How long have you known about the condition?" She let out a bitter laugh that turned into a cough. "Since before your surgery. That's what I've been trying to tell you." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "What?" "It's genetic," she said, her voice weakening. "I knew there was a chance you had it too. The regular sutures, they would have torn through your tissue eventually. The expired ones were actually softer, more flexible." "Stop." I held up my hand, feeling sick. "You're saying you deliberately used defective materials on me because I was trying to save your life." Her voice rose, setting off the monitors again. "The standard protocol would have killed you within years. I had to adapt, to find a way." "By experimenting on your own daughter?" The words came out in a shout. "Without even telling me?" "Dr. Peters," Cadence warned, eyeing the climbing numbers on the monitor. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Charlotte, a word?" I followed him into the hallway, my hands shaking. "Did you know about this?" "I just finished reviewing her old research files," he said quietly. "She was studying genetic connective tissue disorders. There are dozens of cases where standard surgical materials caused catastrophic failures in patients with the condition. So she used me as a test subject?" I pressed my palms against the cool hospital wall, trying to steady myself. "Charlotte?" Mila's voice came from behind us. "There's more you need to know." Before she could continue, alarms blared from my mother's room. We rushed back in to find her gasping for air, the monitors showing dangerous arrhythmia. "She's throwing clots," I realized, moving quickly to her side. "Push heparin now." "Charlotte," my mother wheezed, clutching at my hand. "Your patients, check their histories." "Don't try to talk," I ordered, but she persisted. "The condition, It's more common than we knew. You have to. Her eyes rolled back as the monitors screamed. Code blue, Cadence shouted, already starting compressions. The next 20 minutes were a blur of activity. Medications, defibrillation, more medications. Finally, we got her back, but she remained unconscious. She's stable, Marcus announced, checking the latest readings. But weak, very weak. I stood there, staring at my mother's pale face, my mind racing. Mila, I need you to pull every surgical case file of hers from the past 20 years. And I want genetic screens on all my current surgical patients. Charlotte, Marcus started, you can't seriously be considering... What if she's right? I turned to face him. What if she wasn't being reckless or cheap, but actually saw something nobody else did? What if she's been trying to tell us something important all along? Even if that's true, he argued, it doesn't justify experimenting on a child without consent. No, I agreed, touching my scar through my scrubs. It doesn't. But it might explain why I've never had complications from any of my surgeries since, despite having the same condition. And why some of our patients inexplicably reject standard sutures while others don't. Mila cleared her throat. There's something else you should see. She pulled out her phone, showing me an old email. Your mother sent this to me the day before your surgery. I was supposed to give it to you if anything ever happened to her. As I began to read, my hands started trembling again. The truth, it seemed, was far more complicated than I'd ever imagined. The email shook in my hands as I read it in the quiet of the hospital chapel. It was the only place I could find solitude at 3 a.m. My dearest Charlotte, it began. If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. The surgery I'm about to perform on you tomorrow isn't just routine appendix removal. You have the same condition I do. I thought I'd find you here. Isaac's voice interrupted my reading. My old mentor eased himself into the pew beside me, his weathered face kind but concerned. Marcus told me what happened. I handed him the phone. Read it. His eyes moved across the screen, widening slightly. When he finished, he let out a long breath. Well, that certainly changes things. Does it? I stood up, pacing the small space. She still experimented on me without consent. She still let me believe for 24 years that she chose cheap materials because of budget constraints. Sit down. Isaac patted the space beside him. Tell me what's really bothering you. What's bothering me is that I have patients scheduled for surgery tomorrow, and now I have to wonder if any of them have this condition. I have to wonder if I've been unknowingly putting them at risk all these years. Or unknowingly saving them, he countered, just like your mother saved you. The chapel door opened and Marcus hurried in. Charlotte, we've got the first batch of genetic screens back from the lab. My heart jumped. And? 3 of your current patients tested positive for the condition, including tomorrow morning's valve replacement. I sank back onto the pew. Cancel all my surgeries until further notice. Already done, he said. But there's more. Mila found something in your mother's old research files. You need to see this. We hurried to the research library where Mila had spread dozens of files across a large table. Cadence was there too, helping to organize the papers. Look at these case studies. Mila pointed to a stack of folders. Your mother identified a pattern 15 years ago. Patients with this genetic marker had a significantly higher rate of post-surgical complications when traditional suture materials were used. But the medical board rejected her findings. Cadence added, holding up a letter. They said her research methods were unethical. Because she tested her theory on her own daughter, I said bitterly. No. Mila shook her head. Because she couldn't prove how she knew which patients had the condition. The genetic test didn't exist back then. She was going on instinct and observation. And now we can prove she was right, Marcus added quietly. The implications hit me like a physical blow. How many patients could have been helped if someone had listened to her? That's not the question you need to ask, Isaac said from the doorway. The question is, what are you going to do now that you know the truth? Before I could answer, my pager went off. My mother's heart rate was dropping again. In her room, the monitors painted a grim picture. Her body was failing, system by system. She needs another surgery, Marcus said, examining her latest scans. She's too weak, I argued. She'll never survive it. She'll die without it, he countered. I looked at my mother's face, so peaceful in unconsciousness. The email's words echoed in my mind. I know you may never forgive me for making this choice, but I hope someday you'll understand that a mother's love sometimes means making impossible decisions. Get me the hospital board on the phone, I said suddenly, and find me every single case file where patients experienced unusual complications with standard sutures. What are you thinking? Isaac asked. I'm thinking it's time to finish what she started. I turned to my team. Cadence, I need you to coordinate with the lab for emergency genetic screening. Marcus, help Mila compile all the research data. We're going to prove this condition exists and establish a new protocol for treating it. And your mother? Marcus gestured to the bed. I took a deep breath. We operate, but not with standard materials. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. This is Dr. Peters. I need emergency approval for experimental surgical materials. Yes, I understand the risks. No, this can't wait until morning. As I hung up, Isaac touched my arm. You know this could end your career if you're wrong. And if I'm right, it could save countless lives. I looked at my mother's monitors again, including hers. The board's on line 1. Cadence called from the nurse's station. I squared my shoulders and picked up the phone. This is Dr. Charlotte Peters. I'm about to tell you something that will change how we approach surgery for certain patients. But first, I need you to listen to a story about a mother who made an impossible choice 24 years ago. The next few hours would determine not just my mother's fate, but potentially the future of surgical medicine. And for the first time since I became a surgeon, I understood exactly why my mother had done what she did. The hospital board's emergency session stretched into the early morning hours. I stood before them, my mother's research spread across the conference table, fighting exhaustion as I made my case. So you're telling us, Dr. Thompson, the head of the board, leaned forward, that your mother discovered this condition decades ago, but chose to keep it secret after her initial rejection? Not secret, I corrected. She continued documenting cases, building evidence. She just couldn't prove it without modern genetic testing. Which we now have, Marcus added, displaying the latest test results on the projector. Otis, the hospital administrator, shook his head. This is all very fascinating, but we're talking about using experimental materials on a critically ill patient. The liability alone is nothing compared to the liability of knowing about this condition and continuing to use standard procedures that could harm patients. I interrupted. We've already identified 15 current surgical candidates who test positive. The door opened and Mila rushed in, clutching a stack of papers. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She handed me a worn journal. It was in your mother's personal effects. As I flipped through the pages, my hands started shaking. These are detailed notes about every patient she suspected had the condition, including... I swallowed hard. Including the day she diagnosed me. Dr. Peters, Dr. Thompson said gently, we understand this is personal for you, but you're damn right it's personal, I snapped, pulling up my scrub top just enough to show my scar. This is what standard sutures did to me. And this, I held up my mother's journal, is proof that she knew it would happen if she didn't intervene. The room fell silent. Time's running out, Marcus reminded everyone. Dr. Violet Peters needs surgery within the next few hours, or we'll lose her. Otis cleared his throat. Even if we approve this, where would we get these specialized materials on such short notice? I already have them, I admitted. My mother kept a supply. Mila found them in her old research lab. That's completely unauthorized, Otis protested. So was saving my life 24 years ago, I countered. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Dr. Thompson studied me for a long moment. If we approve this, you understand it's your career on the line? My career, my mother's life, and the lives of countless future patients. I met his gaze steadily. I can live with those stakes. The board members huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. Finally, Dr. Thompson turned back to me. You have conditional approval, pending documentation of everything. And I mean everything. I was already heading for the door when Otis called out, Dr. Peters, don't make us regret this. In the OR prep room, I found Isaac waiting. The board approved it, I said, starting to scrub in. I know. He watched me carefully. But that's not what's bothering you, is it? I found this in her journal. I pulled a folded page from my pocket. Read it. His eyes scanned the weathered paper. The night before your surgery, she knew she was risking everything, I said, returning to the sink. Her career, her reputation, her relationship with me. She knew I might hate her for it. And she did it anyway. Because she loved you more than all of those things, he said simply. Marcus appeared in the doorway, already in surgical gear. We're ready. The OR was quiet as we began, everyone aware of the stakes. I held the specialized suture material in my hands, feeling its unique texture. BP's holding steady. Cadence reported. As I worked, I could almost hear my mother's voice guiding my hands, showing me what she'd learned through years of secret observation and careful documentation. There's the tear, Marcus pointed out, just like she described in her notes. Standard sutures would rip right through this tissue, I murmured, carefully placing the specialized material. She was right. She was right about everything. Hours passed in focused silence. Finally, I stepped back from the table. Close her up, I told Marcus. I need to check something. In the lab, Mila was running more genetic tests. Charlotte, look at this. She pointed to her screen. The marker appears in about 3% of the general population. That's thousands of potential surgical patients. Who could all be saved by what we learned today? I finished. My pager buzzed. My mother was in recovery. When I reached her room, her eyes were open. The specialized sutures. She whispered. You used them? I nodded, checking her vitals. Why didn't you ever tell me the truth? Would you have believed me? She reached for my hand. Would anyone have believed me without proof? I found your journal, I said. All those years of research, all those patients you identified. All leading to this moment. She squeezed my hand weakly. Now you can do what I couldn't. You can prove it. The monitors showed strong, steady readings. The specialized materials were working exactly as she'd predicted. There's something else you should know, I said, pulling out her journal. Something I found in here about why you really left medicine. My mother's face paled as I held up her journal. Where did you find that particular entry? It was tucked in the back, I said, opening to the dog-eared page. The night you resigned, it wasn't just about the medical board rejecting your research, was it? Before she could answer, Marcus knocked and entered. Sorry to interrupt, but the genetic results from the surgical ward are in. 20 more positive cases. 20? My mother tried to sit up, wincing. In just one ward? Lie still, I ordered, adjusting her bed. Your sutures may be special, but they still need time to heal. Charlotte, she grabbed my wrist. Those patients can't wait. You have to... I'm not doing anything until you tell me about Dr. Roberts, I cut in, watching her face carefully. The entry mentions him specifically. The room went quiet. Even Marcus, who had been checking monitors, stopped to listen. Robert Roberts. My mother finally said, her voice bitter. Head of surgery back then. He threatened to expose my unauthorized research if I didn't resign. But that's not all he did, is it? I pressed, reading from the journal. He said he'd make sure Charlotte never got into medical school if I pursued this further. Marcus let out a low whistle. That's why you disappeared. I couldn't risk your future, she said to me. Not after everything I'd done to ensure you had one. A knock at the door interrupted us. Otis entered, looking grave. Dr. Peters, both of you, we have a situation. What kind of situation? I asked. The media got wind of our emergency board meeting. They're running a story about experimental surgeries and genetic testing. He held up his tablet, showing a breaking news headline. They're calling it Legacy of Unethical Experiments. My mother started coughing, her monitors beeping in protest. Everyone out, I ordered, checking her vitals. She needs rest. In the hallway, Otis continued. The board is calling another emergency meeting. They're considering suspending all surgeries until this is sorted out. They can't do that, Marcus protested. We have patients who need immediate care. Then we need proof, I said. Concrete, undeniable evidence that this condition exists and that these specialized materials are the only safe option. How? Otis asked. Clinical trials take years. Unless, Marcus said slowly, we already have the trials. 24 years of documented cases. I turned to him. My mother's research. And your own surgical history, he added. You're living proof the specialized materials work. Get Mila, I told Marcus. Tell her to bring everything we found, and find Isaac. We need his reputation to back this up. Charlotte. My mother called weakly from her room. I went back in to find her trying to get out of bed. What are you doing? My old office, she gasped. 3rd floor, east wing. Behind the radiator cover, there's a USB drive. Everything's on it. Everything Roberts tried to bury. Mom, stop moving. I pushed her gently back. I'll get it. No, she grabbed my arm. You don't understand. Roberts is still on the hospital board. He's the one who leaked this to the media. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. After all these years, he's still trying to bury the truth? Because if it comes out now, his entire career will be destroyed. He knowingly suppressed information that could have saved lives. My pager buzzed. The board was assembling. Go, my mother said. Get the drive. I'll be fine. I hesitated at the door. Why didn't you tell me any of this before? Because I wanted you to become a surgeon for the right reasons, she said softly. Not out of revenge or bitterness. I wanted you to be better than me. You saved my life, I replied. Maybe it's time I returned the favor. Racing through the hospital corridors, I found Marcus and Mila already heading to my mother's old office. The radiator covers sealed shut, Mila said, examining it. Not for long, Marcus replied, producing a screwdriver from his pocket. As we worked to remove the cover, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Well, well, a familiar voice said. I should have known you'd come looking here. We turned to find Dr. Roberts standing in the doorway. His silver hair and expensive suit a stark contrast to our scrubs. It's over, I said, holding up the USB drive we'd just retrieved. The truth is coming out. The truth? He laughed coldly. The truth is your mother performed unauthorized experiments on her own child. No one will believe anything that comes from her research. No, I stepped forward. The truth is you condemned countless patients to surgical complications because you were too proud to admit she was right. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, he said smoothly. I wonder which version they'll believe. As he turned to leave, I called after him. I'm my mother's daughter, Dr. Roberts. I don't give up easily. And this time, we have proof. The USB drive felt heavy in my hand as we rushed toward the boardroom. 24 years of secrets were about to come to light, and nothing would ever be the same. The hospital boardroom crackled with tension as I plugged the USB drive into the projector. Dr. Roberts sat at the far end, his face a mask of practiced concern. Before we begin, he said smoothly, I think we should address the serious ethical violations that have come to light. You want to talk about ethical violations? I interrupted, pulling up the first file. Let's start with this email chain from 1999. The room fell silent as the messages appeared on screen. Robert's face went pale. We can't acknowledge this condition exists, I read aloud. The liability would bankrupt the hospital, bury the research, and handle Peters quietly. Those emails could be fabricated, he protested, but his voice wavered. Really? Marcus stepped forward, holding up a stack of papers. Because we have the original printed copies from the hospital archives, complete with your signature. Mila clicked to the next document. And here's the genetic study from last night. 23 patients, all showing the exact markers my mother identified 24 years ago. Dr. Roberts. Dr. Thompson leaned forward. Is this true? Did you deliberately suppress research about a potentially dangerous genetic condition? Before he could answer, the door burst open. Cadence rushed in, breathless. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She turned on the room's TV to a news channel. A reporter stood outside the hospital. Breaking news in the medical community as patients across the country are coming forward with stories of mysterious post-surgical complications. Many are now demanding genetic testing after reports surfaced about a previously unknown condition. It's gone national, Marcus whispered. Turn it off, Roberts demanded, standing up. This is all circumstantial. You have no proof these complications are connected. Actually, Isaac's voice came from the doorway. We do. He walked in, followed by 3 other doctors. These are surgical chiefs from 3 different hospitals. They've been quietly tracking similar cases for years. One of them stepped forward. We've all seen it. Patients with unexplained tissue fragility, unusual healing patterns, but nobody could prove why until now. The specialized materials work, I added, pulling up my mother's surgical data. Every patient she treated with them had better outcomes, including me. You experimented on children, Roberts shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. No, I said quietly. She saved children, while you watched them suffer to protect your reputation. Dr. Thompson stood up. I've heard enough. Dr. Roberts, you're suspended pending a full investigation. Security will escort you out. As Roberts was led away, my pager went off. My mother's heart rate was dropping again. Go, Marcus said. We'll handle things here. I ran to her room, finding her struggling to breathe. What happened? Pulmonary embolism, Cadence reported, already pushing medication. The clot-busting drugs aren't working. We need to operate again, I said, checking her scans. Now. Charlotte, my mother wheezed, grabbing my hand. The board. Roberts. It's over, I told her. They know everything. You were right all along. A faint smile crossed her face before her eyes rolled back. She's crashing, Cadence called out. The next hours were a blur of surgical precision and desperate hope. As I worked to save my mother's life for the second time, I realized something had changed. The anger that had driven me for so many years was gone, replaced by understanding. BP's stabilizing, Marcus announced finally. We got it. Later in recovery, I sat beside her bed, watching her breathe steadily. You should see this, Mila said softly, showing me her phone. Social media was exploding with the story. Genetic justice was trending. The medical board is fast-tracking approval for genetic screening protocols, Marcus added. They're calling it the Peters Protocol. She'd hate that. I laughed quietly. She never wanted recognition. She just wanted to help people. My mother stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Charlotte, I'm here. I took her hand. The specialized materials worked again. You're going to be fine. The research is changing everything. Hospitals across the country are implementing genetic screening. Roberts is finished, and I squeezed her hand. I understand now. Why you did what you did. Tears filled her eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't, I said firmly. You gave me purpose. Every surgery I've performed, every life I've saved, it all started with you making an impossible choice. Dr. Peters? A nurse appeared at the door. There's a patient asking for you. She saw the news and thinks she might have the condition. I stood up, straightening my scrubs. Time to get back to work. Charlotte? My mother called as I reached the door. Thank you for finishing what I started. No, I smiled back at her. Thank you for giving me the chance to do it right. As I walked down the hospital corridor, I touched my scar through my scrubs. For the first time in 24 years, it felt like a badge of honor rather than a mark of betrayal. Sometimes the deepest wounds lead to the greatest healing. not just for ourselves, but for others too. The morning sun streamed through the hospital windows as I reviewed genetic test results with my mother. She sat in a comfortable chair in her office, recently reinstated, while I perched on the desk edge. "Another positive match," I said, passing her the file. "That makes 312 confirmed cases just in this hospital." "And to think," she smiled, "it all started with a mother's desperate gamble." A knock at the door interrupted us. Marcus entered, followed by Dr. Thompson and several members of the medical board. "The official announcement is ready," Dr. Thompson said. "We'd like you both to be there." My mother shook her head. "This is Charlotte's moment. I've had my time." "Actually," I helped her up, "they need to hear it from both of us, the past and the future together." In the hospital's main conference room, cameras flashed as we approached the podium. I spotted familiar faces in the crowd. Mila, Cadence, Isaac, and dozens of patients whose lives had been changed by our discovery. 24 years ago, I began, a surgeon made a choice that seemed unethical at the time. She used unauthorized materials on her own daughter, knowing it might end her career. Today, we know that decision saved not just my life, but potentially thousands of others. My mother stepped forward. "The Peters protocol isn't just about genetic testing. It's about challenging medical assumptions, about listening to patients who say something isn't right, and about having the courage to find better solutions. Starting today," I continued, "every surgical patient in this hospital will be screened for the condition. We're also launching a nationwide database to track cases and outcomes." A reporter raised her hand. "Dr. Peters, either of you, what would you say to critics who still question the original ethics of this discovery?" My mother started to speak, but I touched her arm. "I'll take this one." Facing the cameras, I pulled up my scrub top just enough to show my scar. This is what standard medical procedure would have done to me. My mother saw a problem, found a solution, and sacrificed everything to implement it. That's not unethical. That's the very foundation of medical progress. After the press conference, we returned to my mother's office to find an unexpected visitor. Dr. Roberts stood there, looking older and tired. "Security cleared me for 5 minutes," he said quickly. "I came to apologize." "Save it," my mother started, but I held up my hand. "No, let him speak." "I was wrong," he said simply. I was so focused on protecting the hospital's reputation that I forgot our real purpose, helping people. "The lawsuit papers were served this morning. I'll plead guilty to all charges." After he left, my mother sank into her chair. I never thought I'd hear those words from him. "People can surprise you," I said, thinking of my own journey from vengeful daughter to understanding advocate. A commotion outside drew us to the window. Below, in the hospital parking lot, dozens of people were gathering. Many held signs. "Thank you, Dr. Peters." "Genetic justice." "My life was saved by the Peters protocol." "Your fan club awaits," I teased. "Our fan club," she corrected, then grew serious. "Charlotte, about your childhood, the isolation, the pain." "Mom," I interrupted, "look at what that pain created. Sometimes the deepest scars lead us exactly where we need to go." My pager buzzed. A new surgical consult. The patient had tested positive for the condition. "Duty calls," I said, heading for the door. "Charlotte?" My mother's voice stopped me. Would you let me observe? Like old times?" I smiled. "Better than old times. This time we do it right. Together." In the OR, my mother watched from the observation deck as I prepared for surgery. Marcus stood ready to assist. Cadence monitored the equipment, and Mila waited to process tissue samples for the database. "Scalpel," I called out, then paused, looking up at my mother. "This one's for you." As I made the first incision, I felt the weight of everything that had brought us here. The pain, the secrets, the vindication, and finally the healing. Not just of bodies, but of relationships, of trust, of purpose. "Specialized sutures," I announced, reaching for the materials my mother had championed so long ago. Through the observation window, I saw her smile, and I knew we had both found what we were looking for. Not revenge, not justification, but something far more powerful, the chance to turn our shared wound into a gift for others. Ready to close, I said finally, looking at my team, my family, really. Each of them had played a part in this journey, in transforming a mother's desperate choice into a medical breakthrough. As I placed the final suture, I thought about all the patients who would never have to wonder why their bodies rejected standard treatments, who would never bear the kind of scar I carried. That was the real victory. Not in proving we were right, but in preventing others from suffering. My mother's voice came through the intercom, strong and clear. Beautiful work, Charlotte. Beautiful work. And it was. All of it. Every scar, every struggle, every step that led us here. Beautiful, painful, necessary work.
Hi everyone, I'm Tana, a real estate agent with over 11 years of experience. Today, I'm going to share the story of how my mother-in-law, Eleanor, and her entitled family tried to take everything from me after my husband Andrew's death. Life with Andrew was beautiful, until cancer knocked on our door. Our two-story suburban home was our sanctuary, a place of love and comfort. But that peace started to crumble when Eleanor began treating our home as her second residence. Tana, dear, the organic groceries you buy are so expensive. Sarah was just telling me she can feed her whole family for half the price, Eleanor would say, rummaging through our fridge during one of her unannounced visits. Mom, please. Tina works hard, and we can afford what we want. Andrew would defend me, though his voice grew weaker with each passing day. The chemotherapy was brutal, but not as brutal as Eleanor parading her unemployed daughter, Sarah, her husband, Tom, who claimed to be disabled, and their two kids through our home like it was their personal playground. Mommy, why can't we live in a nice house like Aunt Tina? Sarah's 8-year-old asked one day while jumping on our $3,000 couch with muddy shoes. Because your Aunt Tina got lucky with Uncle Andrew's money, sweetie, Sarah replied, making no effort to stop him. I was organizing Andrew's medications when Tom began his usual complaints. Man, these disability claims are taking forever. They just don't understand how bad my back is. Your back didn't seem to bother you when you were moving furniture for your buddy last weekend, I muttered under my breath. Things reached a boiling point when Eleanor cornered Andrew during one of his better days. Have you updated your life insurance? With Sarah struggling so much. Mother enough. Andrew's outburst startled everyone. My insurance is for Tina's security, not Sarah's pyramid schemes. Andrew's final days were peaceful, at least. He squeezed my hand one last time and said, "Don't let them walk all over you, baby. You're stronger than all of them combined." After the funeral, I found Eleanor and Sarah whispering in my kitchen. The policy must be at least $500,000, Eleanor said. Mom, she can't possibly need all that money for herself, Sarah replied. I cleared my throat. They jumped. Can I get you anything? Besides my bank account details, I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. They gave me a look that could curdle milk, as if I were the unreasonable one. But I kept my cool, remembering Andrew's words. Little did they know, their attempts to take over my life were just beginning. A week later, the doorbell rang incessantly. I opened it to find Eleanor, Sarah, Tom, and their kids standing there with a U-Haul truck behind them. We lost our rental, sweetie, Eleanor announced, already pushing past me with boxes. But God works in mysterious ways. Now you won't be alone in this big house. Wait, what? You can't just. Andrew would have wanted us to stick together as a family, Sarah interrupted. Her kids were already running upstairs. He always said this house was too big for just two people, Sarah added. Those weren't his words. Those were yours, Sarah, I snapped. Tana, dear, Eleanor said, grabbing my hands and faking tears. My grandchildren are practically homeless. What would Andrew say if you turned them away? Before I could respond, Tom directed movers to carry their furniture inside. We'll take the master bedroom. My back, you know, those stairs are killer, he said. That's my bedroom, I protested. Don't be selfish, Tina, Eleanor snapped. Family helps family. Within hours, they'd taken over the house. Andrew's office became a playroom, his desk covered in sticky fingerprints. The kids need a space to play, Sarah shrugged when I confronted her. It's not like anyone's using it. Every day brought new horrors. Eleanor would show up at 7 a.m., questioning why I was going to work. Those poor children need a mother figure while Sarah is busy job hunting. Job hunting? She's been on the couch watching reality TV all day, I shot back. How would you know? You're never here. So selfish. I slammed the door before she could finish. Then I started noticing things missing: my Cartier watch, Andrew's first anniversary gift, my grandmother's pearls, and even my wedding jewelry. Has anyone seen my jewelry box? I asked during one of their takeout dinners that I was apparently paying for. Haven't seen it, Sarah said too quickly, avoiding eye contact. That night, while looking for my missing car keys, I found pawn shop receipts in Sarah's purse. My hands shook as I read them, but the final straw? A stack of credit card applications I found in the trash, filed in my name, with my information but not my handwriting. The mailman must have mixed up our mail. Sarah stammered when I confronted her. In my name, with my social security number, I demanded. Well, if you just help us out financially like Andrew would have wanted, she muttered, her voice trailing off. That night, I locked myself in the guest room, the only space they hadn't invaded, and sobbed into Andrew's old t-shirt. I don't know what to do, babe, I whispered into the worn fabric. They're taking everything. My phone buzzed. Another declined credit card notification. They were getting bolder, assuming I wouldn't fight back, but they didn't know me at all. Andrew was right, I was stronger than them. As I lay there plotting my next move, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't about grief or family anymore. This was war. Sorry, I'm just really tired. I mumbled the next morning, slumping at the breakfast table, secretly recording Eleanor and Sarah as they schemed. Finally given up, huh? Sarah smirked, sipping my coffee as if she owned the place. Anyway, Mom, but lawyers said after 6 months, they can't just throw us out. Squatters' rights or whatever, Sarah said with a smug grin. My hand tightened around my phone, but I kept my defeated pose. 3 months of playing possum while building my case had taught me patience. Earlier that week, I'd struck gold. Jessica, their previous landlord, finally returned my call. Oh my God, they're doing it to you too. They pulled the same stunt with us. Moved in claiming hardship, then refused to leave and destroyed the place. I've got all the court documents. Each revelation was worse than the last. 5 evictions, 3 lawsuits, countless victims. Look at Tom working so hard on his physical therapy, Eleanor cooed from the window. I glanced outside, my hidden camera capturing Tom hauling construction materials into his buddy's truck. Physical therapy, my ass. I added the footage to my growing evidence file. Andrew's lawyer, Richard, had been a godsend. Your husband knew this might happen, he said, sliding a sealed letter across his desk. He wrote this before he passed. My hands trembled as I read Andrew's words. Baby, if you're reading this, they've made their move. Mom's been running this con with Sarah for years. Dad left because of it. Don't let them do to you what they did to him. That night, I lay in the too small guest bed, listening to Sarah's kids jump on my $5,000 mattress upstairs. My phone buzzed again. Another message from their previous victim. They tried the same disability scam with us. I've got proof of Tom working construction during that time too. My evidence wall in the locked spare closet was growing. Photos, videos, documents, text messages. Every stolen piece of jewelry documented. Every fraudulent application logged. Every conversation recorded. You look awful, dear, Eleanor commented the next morning, her voice oozing false concern. Perhaps you should take some time off work. Rest. Maybe you're right, I sighed, playing my part. It's all so overwhelming. That's right, just let us handle everything, Sarah chimed in, patting my hand condescendingly. I retreated to my room, adding another recording to my file. My phone lit up with a message from Richard. Documentation from Andrew's father received. Ready when you are. Oh, I'm ready, I whispered, staring at my evidence wall. You want to play family? Let's play. The next morning, chaos descended. What do you mean, fraud investigation? Tom's face went pale as federal agents showed him photos of his construction work. Sir, you've collected $45,000 in disability benefits while working full-time jobs for cash, the agent said. I watched from the window as they led him to their car, Sarah screaming behind them. This is your fault. Eleanor stormed into my house. You vindictive little. Mrs. Patterson, a detective interrupted, stepping inside. We have some questions about your involvement in multiple fraud schemes. Eleanor's face crumpled as they showed her the evidence. I was only trying to help my daughter, she protested. By stealing my jewelry? By attempting identity theft? I shot back, holding up the stack of fraudulent credit applications. The pawnshops were very helpful with their surveillance footage. You don't understand. Sarah sobbed as officers took her statement. We needed. Save it for the judge, I snapped. Oh, and your previous landlords send their regards, I said with a smirk, sliding the eviction notice across the table. Their faces were priceless when they realized I had documented everything. You can't do this. We have rights. Sarah screamed, tears streaming down her face. Actually, my lawyer said, his smile razor sharp, you don't. The headlines were brutal. Family fraud ring exposed. Tom got 3 years in prison for disability fraud. Sarah received probation and restitution orders she'd never fulfill. Eleanor, stripped of her church committee roles after the truth came out, was left begging outside the courthouse. Please, Tana, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Where will we go? I looked her in the eye, my voice steady. You should have thought about that before you tried to steal my life. The kids, at least, would have a chance. Tom's parents had been fighting for custody for years, and now they'd finally won. Eleanor's once devout church friends were less than forgiving. She used us all, their pastor declared, cutting her off from every committee and volunteer role she had clung to for status. As for me, I sold the house right under their noses. With my real estate connections, I found a luxury condo in another city, complete with state-of-the-art security that would make Fort Knox jealous. Miss Reynolds, my new doorman, greeted me warmly. Your package arrived. Inside was Andrew's restored photo, now hanging proudly in my scam-proof sanctuary. The HOA rules were a dream, no guests over 2 weeks. Perfect. The real estate community rallied behind me. You're an inspiration, one colleague said. I'm dealing with family trying the same thing. Their support led to something bigger, a weekly support group for victims of family financial abuse. Every Tuesday, we meet to share stories, strategies, and strength. Last I heard, Eleanor was living alone in a tiny apartment. Sarah juggled minimum wage jobs between probation check-ins. And Tom? He still had 3 years behind bars to reflect on his choices. In my new home, I stood before Andrew's photo and smiled. You were right, babe. I was stronger than all of them combined. My phone buzzed, a desperate voicemail from Eleanor. Straight to my lawyer it went, like all the others. My new life was peaceful, successful, free, and the best revenge, thriving while they lived with the consequences of their actions. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. What would you have done if you discovered your mother-in-law was the mastermind behind multiple fraud schemes? Would you have exposed everything immediately or quietly gathered evidence like I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you've ever dealt with toxic family members trying to take advantage of you during vulnerable moments. Your stories and experiences might help others recognize the warning signs before it's too late. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up to toxic family members and breaking free from manipulation. And remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. Hi everyone, I'm Ann William. I run a successful event planning business here in Chicago. But today, I want to tell you how my toxic Aunt Nicole finally got what she deserved. Growing up, it was just me and my mom, Gloria. She worked 3 grueling jobs to put me through college. I'll never forget the nights I'd find her asleep at the kitchen table after a late shift. That woman is my hero. But Aunt Nicole? She's a different story. While my mom was breaking her back to provide for me, Nicole was busy flaunting her luxury cars and bragging about her high-end beauty salon downtown. At family gatherings, she'd give my mom these fake sympathetic looks and say things like, I just don't understand why Gloria doesn't try harder. There are so many opportunities if you know the right people. Her daughters, Celine and Elisa, were just like her, spoiled, entitled, and always looking down on everyone. Last Thanksgiving, I overheard them mocking my mom's modest apartment. Can you believe they don't even have a pool? How do they live? They sneered. But despite them, things were going great for me. My event planning business was booming, thanks in part to my incredible assistant, Ramon. I'd just gotten engaged to James, a brilliant corporate lawyer who saw right through my aunt's facade. She gives me weird vibes, James said after one family dinner. He wasn't wrong. During that dinner, Nicole kept pestering Lucas, James's business partner, to use her salon for their corporate events. Lucas politely declined, saying, "Sorry, Nicole, but we already have contracts with other vendors." "But family should always come first, don't you think?" she cooed, batting her lashes. Lucas wasn't buying it. Meanwhile, my mom pulled me aside one evening. "Honey, be careful. Your aunt's been asking a lot of questions about your client list." "Why would she care about my clients?" I asked, confused. "Because that's what Nicole does," my mom said grimly. "She finds ways to use people and then tosses them aside." Ramon noticed it too. "Boss, your aunt's been calling the office, trying to get info on our high-end clients." "Block her number," I said, thinking that would solve the problem. But I had no idea it was just the beginning. Nicole had a way of turning every family gathering into her personal networking event. She cornered my friends, clients, anyone she thought could benefit her. "You must let me do your hair for the wedding," she insisted to my bridesmaids. Family discount, of course. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. She was collecting information, making connections, and setting traps. But I was too busy planning my dream wedding with James and enjoying my business's success. That's exactly what she was counting on, me being too distracted to notice. The wedding ceremony was magical. James and I exchanged vows under a flawless blue sky, surrounded by roses and twinkling lights. Even Aunt Nicole managed to behave, though I caught her whispering to Celine about how her own wedding would be much grander. Everything changed at the reception. I was mingling with guests when I heard Celine's sharp voice cut through the crowd. "Mom, we've been waiting forever. No one's even taken our drink orders." I walked over to see what was wrong, and that's when Nicole pounced. "And, darling, your servers are completely ignoring my girls. They've been sitting here parched for 20 minutes, she said dramatically. "The servers are following a set pattern to ensure all guests are served efficiently," I replied calmly. "Nonsense. They're family. You should serve them yourself. I've always taught my girls that family comes first. Remember when I did your graduation photos for free?" "For free?" I shot back. "You charged me double your regular rate." Before I could say more, my mom stepped in, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Enough, Nicole. I've watched you exploit this family for years. You charge and premium rates for those photos while bragging about your family discount. You convinced cousin Sarah to do free accounting for your salon and then blamed her when the IRS came knocking. You've been using people and discarding them for decades. How dare you accuse me of anything?" "I've always been generous with this family," Nicole hissed, her voice dripping with indignation. "Generous?" My mom shot back, her voice steady and sharp. "You tried to trick Ramon into giving you Anne's client list last week. You even called pretending to be a potential investor." The entire reception hall fell silent. All eyes were on us. I noticed James tense beside me, his lawyer instincts kicking in as he watched Nicole subtly angle her phone, likely recording the confrontation. "You're just jealous," Nicole spat, her composure cracking. "Jealous because I've made something of myself while you worked like a common servant." "I worked to give my daughter a future," my mom countered fiercely. "What have you done? Taught your girls to be entitled brats?" Celine burst into theatrical sobs while Elisa whipped out her phone, recording every word. Some guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, but others were riveted, clearly entertained by the drama. Later, Lucas pulled me aside, his expression grave. "Anne, you need to hear this." He explained how he'd overheard Nicole and her daughters plotting near the bathrooms. "We'll edit the video to make Gloria look unhinged," Nicole whispered. "Then we'll post about how Anne treats family at her own wedding. That'll teach her to disrespect us. Her fancy clients won't want an event planner who can't even manage her own wedding." "Mom, can we mention how she ignored us all night?" Elisa chimed in eagerly. "Perfect, sweetie. By the time we're done, her precious business won't recover." I felt my stomach churn, but I forced myself to stay calm. My wedding day had turned into a battleground I hadn't even known I was fighting. 3 days into my honeymoon, the storm hit. Nicole posted a heavily edited video of the reception, twisting the story to paint herself and her daughters as victims of my mom and me. "We even found roaches in the wedding cake," she sobbed in her post. "My poor girls were traumatized. I can't believe my own niece would serve such disgusting food at her wedding." The comments exploded. My phone buzzed relentlessly with notifications. Just got a call from the Hendersons, Ramon said, his voice tight. They're reconsidering their daughter's Sweet 16 booking after seeing the video. Mrs. Patterson, another major client, also called. She's worried about the country club charity gala next month, Ramon added grimly. James was furious. Look at these posts from your cousins, he said, scrolling through his phone. They're telling everyone at Brighton Prep that you serve expired food at corporate events. My inbox was filled with cancellations. I felt like my world was crumbling. Then my mom called, her voice trembling with emotion. Anne, I just found out why I didn't get that job at Morrison Corp last year. Nicole told her salon client Susan, the HR director, that I had a drinking problem. The hits kept coming. Lucas stormed into our office, waving his phone. You won't believe this. I looked into Nicole's salon finances and something's seriously off. She's been filing fraudulent insurance claims for non-existent flood damage. There's a clear pattern. Every 6 months, another accident. Ramon chimed in with his own discovery. Boss, remember how Crystal Events was tanked by bad reviews last year? I traced the IP addresses of those reviews. They lead back to Celine and Elisa's phones. Your aunt's been systematically sabotaging other event planners. James spread out documents on the dining table. It's bigger than that. Nicole's been blackballing your mom for years. She uses her network of salon clients to spread rumors and ruin opportunities. It's how she kept Gloria from landing management positions. The puzzle pieces finally clicked into place. Nicole had spent years using manipulation and deceit to maintain her facade of success. But in trying to destroy me, she had overplayed her hand. Lucas filed an anonymous tip with the insurance investigators. Within weeks, 2 men in suits were poring over Nicole's salon records. Have you seen this, Mrs. William? One asked, holding up a document. Extensive water damage claims but no repair records. Multiple claims with the same pattern. Ramon worked tirelessly, showing unedited wedding footage to my elite clients. See the timestamp jumps? They spliced the video to remove context. Classic manipulation. The investigation into Nicole's salon spread like wildfire. Former employees came forward. She made us lie about flood damage, one revealed. Said we'd lose our jobs if we didn't back her up. Brighton Prep's administration discovered Celine and Elisa's cyberbullying activities. The principal was livid. They used school computers to post fake reviews. This is grounds for immediate suspension. My cousins lost their positions on the student council and cheerleading squad. Their carefully crafted social status crumbled overnight. But Celine and Elisa's feeble excuses didn't hold up for long. But Mom said it was okay. We were protecting the family business, Celine whined when confronted about their actions. The real breakthrough came when Nicole's former victims started finding their voices. Salon competitors, ex-employees, and even family members began to share their stories. She blacklisted my catering business because I wouldn't give her free services. She spread rumors that got me fired after I opened a competing salon. She guilted me into offering free accounting, then blamed me when the IRS got involved. As their stories spread, the house of cards Nicole had built began to collapse. Meanwhile, my mom finally got the break she deserved. Morrison Corp's CEO personally reached out to apologize. We've learned about Miss Nicole's interference. Your qualifications speak for themselves, Gloria, he said, offering her a senior position. Nicole's salon was shut down pending investigation, and the insurance company demanded every cent of the fraudulent claims back. Please, Anne, you have to help me. I'm your aunt. I'll lose everything, she begged in a voicemail. I deleted it without listening to the rest. That same day, I signed the lease for my company's new downtown office. Moments later, Ramon burst into my office, grinning. Nicole's salon just filed for bankruptcy, and guess what? Brighton Prep wants us to handle their graduation ceremony. The family members who had stayed silent at my wedding suddenly found their voices, too. We always knew Nicole was toxic. Remember how she tried to ruin Cousin Sarah's accounting business? Mom and I celebrated over dinner in her new corner office overlooking the city. She raised her glass of champagne, a triumphant glint in her eye. I saw Nicole at the grocery store today. She looked terrible. Asked me to convince you to help with her legal fees. What did you say? I asked, already smiling. I told her Kate's a better teacher than any of us could ever be. We clinked glasses, celebrating not just our success, but the poetic justice of watching karma unfold. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation, It's stepping back and letting toxic people drown in the consequences of their own actions. Looking at my mom, both of us thriving while Nicole faced potential jail time, I realized something profound. Success is the best revenge. This story was an experiment about toxic family relationships and justice. Now, here's where it gets personal. When you discover that someone you trusted, especially family, has been deliberately working against you, does the length of time they spent hurting you determine whether they deserve forgiveness? My aunt spent years sabotaging both my mother's and my careers while pretending to love us. Yet when her schemes unraveled, she expected instant forgiveness. Some have called me cruel for not accepting her apology after she lost everything. But can a simple sorry erase years of calculated harm? Should we forgive toxic family members just because society expects us to? At what point do we prioritize our own mental health and boundaries over family obligations? If you discovered a close family member secretly working to destroy what you've built, how would you handle it? Would you expose them immediately or quietly gather evidence like I did? And most importantly, if their apology only comes after they face consequences, not while they're actively hurting you, is that apology even genuine? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else in a similar situation. If this resonated with you, hit like and subscribe for more real stories about overcoming toxic relationships and finding justice. Sometimes, the best revenge is watching fate do its work. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily, a 28-year-old marketing specialist. I just returned from 2 years working abroad in London, stepping into my childhood home after all that time felt off. The warm, familiar scent of mom's cooking was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite place: control. Lillian, my younger sister, had somehow assumed the role of house manager while I was away. "You can't eat that, Mom. It's not good for your heart." Lillian's voice echoed from the kitchen. "I've prepared a special meal just for you," she continued as I quietly stood in the doorway. "But honey, I'm craving my usual breakfast," Mom replied weakly. "Remember what the doctor said?" Lillian insisted, setting down a bowl of oatmeal in front of Mom while tucking away the fresh groceries I'd glimpsed earlier. Some things never change, I thought. Lillian had always had to be in charge, just like when we were kids. "Emily, when did you get in?" Mom's face lit up, and she tried to rise for a hug. "Mom, sit down," Lillian scolded, pushing her gently back into the chair. "You need to stay calm. No excitement, it's bad for your heart." Ignoring her, I leaned in to hug Mom anyway. "The doctor said mild arrhythmia, Lillian. She's not made of glass." A flood of childhood memories washed over me. Lillian dictating what games we'd play, which TV shows we'd watch, always getting her way. "Emily, don't upset your sister," was the constant refrain growing up. Now she was taking her bossy streak to a whole new level. "Hey babe, I brought those supplements you asked for." A tall guy walked in, Kevin, Lillian's boyfriend. He seemed nice enough but looked uncomfortable as Lillian snatched the bag from his hands. "Thanks. These are perfect for Mom's new diet plan," she said with a smirk. As she spoke, I noticed her discreetly slipping a pack of premium chocolate bars into her purse. Later that afternoon, I sat at the dining table, reviewing household bills scattered across it. "Lillian, why are there so many withdrawals from Mom and Dad's account?" I asked, holding up a bank statement. "I'm managing their finances now," she replied flatly. "They can't handle the stress of bills anymore." Snatching the papers from my hands, she added, "Besides, what would you know? You've been gone for 2 years." That evening, I met up with Maria, my old high school friend, at a local cafe. By some stroke of luck, she now worked at the same marketing firm where I'd just been hired. "Girl, I can't believe Lillian's turned herself into some kind of house dictator," Maria said, stirring her coffee. When your mom mentioned her heart issues, Lillian swooped in like some self-appointed savior. "She's always been controlling," I sighed. "But this feels worse." "Did you know she's handling their money now?" Maria raised an eyebrow. "That's not good. Remember how she handled the student council funds in high school? They had to audit everything after she graduated." I nodded, remembering a sharp pang in my chest. "And now she's convinced Mom and Dad she's their guardian angel. Mom can't even make tea without her approval." "Just be careful," Maria warned. Lillian has a way of flipping things around when you call her out. I know, I said, staring into my coffee, but I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm going to do something about this before it gets worse. The next morning, Lillian's authoritarian shriek escalated. The kitchen is off limits after 7 p.m., she announced, installing a padlock on the refrigerator. And Mom, breakfast is only between 8 o'clock and 8:30. But I get hungry at night, Dad protested. Then eat more during your designated mealtimes, Lillian snapped, her tone brooking no argument. Later that day, while combing through Mom and Dad's bank statements, I spotted something alarming. A monthly $2,000 charge labeled household management fee. What's this? I demanded, confronting Lillian. That's for my services, she said coolly. Running this house isn't free, Emily. Not everyone gets to abandon their family to party in London. Party? I shot back. I was working. Watch your tone, she hissed. Wouldn't want Mom to hear about your college drinking escapades. Her heart might not handle it. By midweek, I found Dad in his study, looking troubled over a stack of business papers. Everything okay? I asked. The business is struggling, he admitted, his brow furrowed. But something's not adding up. The numbers don't make sense. Lillian's been helping with the bookkeeping. But Dad, let me help. I can look at the accounts, I pleaded. Before Dad could respond, Lillian burst into the room. Absolutely not. Dad's under enough stress. I'm handling everything. Later, when I tried to transfer money to help with bills, Lillian convinced them to reject it. We don't need your guilty conscience money, she snapped. One evening, I overheard Lillian berating Kevin in the backyard. You're useless. Can't even back me up when Emily questions things. Maybe she has a point about the kitchen rules, Kevin began cautiously. Shut up. You know nothing about family dynamics, Lillian shot back, her voice cold and cutting. Kevin must have noticed me watching because he looked away quickly when Lillian cornered me in the hallway later. Stay out of my business, or I'll make sure Mom and Dad see you for the ungrateful child you are. Aunt Rachel's visit couldn't have come at a better time. Over dinner, Lillian refused to let Mom have a second helping. Since when do you control your mother's portions? Aunt Rachel asked, eyebrows raised. Since I became responsible for this family's well-being, Lillian replied smugly, unlike some people who just criticize. Later, Aunt Rachel pulled me aside. Something's not right here, Emily. Your mother seems afraid to speak. I know, I whispered. Lillian's taken over everything. When Lillian went out with Kevin the next day, I snuck into Dad's office. Scanning recent business records, my heart sank. I found multiple unauthorized transfers to Lillian's personal account. Look at these transactions, I said, showing Aunt Rachel. She's been stealing from Dad's business, Aunt Rachel said, frowning. That explains the new designer bags. But Emily, be careful. Lillian's telling relatives you're mentally unstable from your time abroad. She's saying you're jealous and trying to destroy the family. Of course she is, I muttered. She's laying the groundwork in case I expose her. She's even called your cousin, crying, saying you've had violent outbursts. Violent outbursts? I laughed bitterly. I've barely raised my voice. I believe you, Aunt Rachel said. But Lillian's playing a dangerous game. She's got your parents convinced only she can take care of them. She's not taking care of them, I said, gripping the evidence. She's controlling them. And now I can prove it. That evening, Kevin caught me outside work. We need to talk, he said. Lillian's not what you think. I found something on her laptop, documents from her old jobs. She's done this before. Done what? I asked, my stomach nodding. Financial fraud. She was fired from Jefferson Marketing for stealing client funds. Then from Citibank for manipulating accounts, even a tech company before that. She always targets people who trust her. I showed him my documentation. Like these transfers from Dad's business. Exactly, but there's more. She's planning something bigger. I overheard her talking about getting your parents to sign over the house. Aunt Rachel and I met with one of Lillian's former coworkers, Jenny. Over coffee, Jenny recounted her experience. She seemed so helpful at first, Jenny said, shaking her head. Offered to manage the office finances. By the time we discovered the missing money, she'd already moved on. At home, I noticed Lillian rushing to hide papers when I entered her room. Later, while she was showering, I found her diary tucked under the mattress. My hands shook as I read her words. Once the house is in my name, we can discuss assisted living options for Mom. Dad will be easier to handle once she's gone. I shared what I found with Aunt Rachel. She's not just controlling them, she's planning to get rid of them. We need to act now, Aunt Rachel said, gathering bank statements. This pattern is clear. She's been siphonning money for years. That evening, everything came to a head. Dad clutched his chest, reaching for his medication. You can't take those now, Lillian shouted, blocking the cabinet. It's not time. I need them, Dad gasped. Give him the pills, Lillian, I demanded, moving toward the cabinet. Stay back, you don't understand his condition. Stop it, Lillian, I saw your diary. I know everything. Her face went pale. You went through my things. Like you went through Dad's business accounts, or those 3 jobs he got fired from. Kevin stepped out from the hallway. It's over, Lillian. I found all the evidence on your laptop. You went through my computer, she hissed. How dare you? I had to, Kevin said. The transfers, the fraud, the plans for your parents, it's disgusting. You don't understand. I deserve this. I'm the one taking care of them. No, Kevin said firmly. You're exploiting them. We're done. And if you try anything, everything goes public. You can't prove anything, Lillian snarled. Actually, we can. I held up my phone. Jenny had a lot to say, and we got your diary, the bank records, and the emails. Lillian lunged for my phone, but Kevin blocked her. It's over, Lillian. Kevin headed for the door. Emily, I'll email you everything I found. Lillian, don't contact me again. Lillian's carefully constructed world crumbled as she stood there, shaking with rage. You'll regret this, she hissed. The dining table was littered with evidence as Aunt Rachel stood beside me for support. But she's been taking care of us, Mom said, her voice trembling. No, I said gently. She's been controlling you. Look at these nursing home applications she filled out. And these. I handed Dad the documents. They're the papers to transfer the house into her name. Dad's face turned ashen as he reviewed the business accounts. All those missing funds. Before we could process the shock, the doorbell rang. A detective stood on the porch, flanked by one of Lillian's former employers. We're investigating allegations of financial exploitation, the detective said. Just then, Lillian burst through the door, her face a mask of indignation. What's going on? Miss Thompson, the detective said, stepping forward. We have statements from multiple victims of your financial fraud schemes. As the days passed, more people came forward. The tech company pressed charges. The bank launched its own investigation. Former clients shared their harrowing experiences. I trusted her with everything, one elderly client sobbed to a detective. She stole my life savings. Mom and Dad took immediate action. They canceled Lillian's access to all accounts, changed the locks, and began restoring their independence. Mom came to a painful realization. My heart condition. It was never as serious as she made it seem, was it? No, Mom, I said, holding her hand. She used it to control you. 3 months later, Lillian stood in our driveway, tears streaming down her face. Please, I've changed. I'll get help. I'll pay everything back. You can pay it back from jail, I said, closing the door firmly. Under proper management, Dad's business recovered. Mom began cooking her favorite recipes again, filling the house with the comforting sense of our childhood. Meanwhile, I thrived at work and earned a promotion. For the first time in years, our lives felt peaceful. Last week, a tear-stained letter arrived from Lillian. I'm your sister. Family forgives. I threw it away unopened. She's requesting a family visit. Aunt Rachel mentioned during Sunday dinner. Mom shook her head firmly, serving an extra portion of dessert, something Lillian would never have allowed. Some things can't be forgiven, she said. She chose control over family. Now she can live with those consequences. The last I heard, Lillian faced additional charges. Meanwhile, I focused on building a life surrounded by genuine love and trust. Sometimes, family isn't defined by blood but by who earns your trust and respect. And as for forgiveness, not everyone deserves it. Cutting off toxic people isn't harsh, it's necessary for healing. If you were in my position, would you have exposed Lillian the moment you discovered the first signs of financial abuse? Or would you have tried to handle it privately within the family? Was I too harsh in gathering evidence secretly before confronting her? Some say family loyalty should come first, while others argue that protecting vulnerable loved ones is more important than keeping family secrets. What would you have done? Hey everyone, I'm Angela Williams. Ever wondered what it's like to own a mansion, only to be treated like a servant in it? That's my life. But trust me, things are about to get very interesting. Living in a sprawling Victorian mansion on Martha's Vineyard sounds like a dream, right? Except when you're secretly funding your family's lavish lifestyle and getting treated like yesterday's trash in return. At 27, I'm a successful real estate agent by day and an invisible daughter by night. Angela, didn't I tell you to use the service entrance? We have guests coming. My mother, Eleanor, snaps from the grand staircase. This is her new favorite refrain since marrying Richard 3 years ago. The same mother who used to cuddle me during thunderstorms, now acting like I'm unworthy of stepping into her precious foyer. But Mom, I bite my tongue. She doesn't know. None of them do. My grandfather left me everything. The mansion, the properties, the fortune, all in secret. He knew how money changes people, and looking at her now, he wasn't wrong. Darling, is Marcus joining us for dinner tonight? Richard's smooth voice slithers into the room as he adjusts his Rolex, probably bought with my money. He's been asking about you, he adds, flashing a smile that makes my skin crawl. I'm not interested in your business partner, Richard. Watch your tone, young lady, my mother snaps. Behind her, my stepsister Madison smirks from behind her phone. OMG, Angela, she snickers. Not everyone can marry to money like Mom. Some of us have to settle. Her fake sympathy makes me want to scream, if she only knew. Later in the kitchen, Sarah, our housekeeper, who feels more like family than anyone else here, slips me a coffee. Your grandfather would be proud of how you're handling this, honey. But are you sure you want to keep paying for their lifestyle? Just a little longer, Sarah. Everything's about to change. My phone buzzes. It's James, my best friend since 3rd grade. Angela, you won't believe what I found about Richard's business dealings. Tell me over lunch tomorrow. Usual spot. Sure, but your family won't approve of you meeting me at a diner, he jokes. Good thing I stopped caring about their approval around the same time Mom started caring more about Richard's social calendar than me, I reply. Madison saunters into the kitchen, still glued to her phone. Still hanging out with that nobody James. You know, Marcus asked about your schedule. Maybe I'll tell him you're free Friday. Back off, Madison. I mean it. Or what? You'll tattle to Mommy, please. She barely remembers you exist as Daddy came along. I grip the counter, feeling the weight of the property deeds hidden upstairs. Soon, they'll all know exactly who they've been stepping on. But for now, I plaster on a fake smile and retreat to my room. As I pass the family portrait in the hall, I notice the arrangement, Mom standing tall with Richard and Madison, while I'm shoved into the corner like an afterthought. My phone lights up with another text from James, ready to show them who really owns their precious lifestyle. Not yet, I reply, but soon, very soon. Little do they know their perfect world is on the brink of collapse, and I'll be watching from the top floor of the mansion when it does. Later, the sound of the slap echoed through the kitchen, my cheek stinging from Mom's diamond-clad hand. How dare you bring that nobody into my house? She hissed. James stood frozen in the doorway, breakfast forgotten. It's 7 a.m., Eleanor, he said calmly. Angela lives here too. Not for long if she keeps disrespecting this family's standards, she spat, grabbing my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin. Marcus has been asking about you, Angela, and instead of pursuing a respectable relationship, you're entertaining this. This what, Mom? A friend who actually cares about me? Her glare burned through me as she stormed out. That evening, Madison's poison spread through our social circle like wildfire. While I reviewed property documents in my room, Richard barged in unannounced. We need to discuss your future, he declared. What future? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Marcus is prepared to offer you a position in the merged company. After the wedding. What wedding? Don't play coy. It's time you contributed to this family. The merger with Marcus's firm could save our financial situation. Financial situation? That caught my attention. As Richard rambled about arrangements, I spotted a bank statement peeking from his pocket. When he left, I texted James, "Need your hacking skills. Something's wrong with Mom's trust fund." James called back immediately. "Angela, you need to see this. Richard's been draining Eleanor's accounts, offshore holdings, fake companies. She's about to lose everything. Everything she thinks she has." I whispered, touching my bruised cheek. "Help me nail him, James." But before we could act, Mom burst into my room, fury etched on her face. "You've been snooping into our finances?" she shrieked, ripping through my closet like a woman possessed. "Ungrateful little witch. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done. Like replacing my father with a calm man. Like letting Madison spread lies about me. Your father was weak," he snapped. "Richard gives us class, status, everything you're too pathetic to appreciate." She grabbed my laptop, her grip unrelenting, and raised it as if to smash it against the wall. "Mom, stop," I cried, panic lacing my voice. "Why?" "So you can keep conspiring with James, planning to ruin my marriage." She swung the laptop toward the wall, but Sarah rushed in just in time, catching it midair. "Mrs. Williams, the guests are arriving for dinner," Sarah said firmly, her tone calm but commanding. Mom froze, her expression shifting instantly to her perfect society smile. "We'll finish this discussion later," she said, smoothing her hair as if nothing had happened. She strode downstairs, ready to play the perfect hostess, leaving me amidst the wreckage of my shredded clothes. I sank to the floor, hands trembling, and texted James, "Get everything you have on Richard. It's time." Sarah knelt beside me, her voice a soft whisper. "Your grandfather's study. There's something in the safe you need to see." I nodded, standing on shaky legs. In the mirror, Mom's handprint was still visible on my cheek, a cruel reminder of the price I pay for speaking the truth. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from the people who should love us most. But tonight, that changes. Tonight, I stop being the victim in my own home. At midnight, the door to my room crashed open. Mom stood in the doorway, trembling, clutching my grandfather's property papers in her manicured hands. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice cracking. "What is this?" "Careful with those, Mother," I said coolly. "They're worth more than your entire wardrobe." Richard appeared behind her, his face red with fury. "You little liar, all this time, all this time." "What, Richard?" I snapped. "While you were draining Mom's trust fund? While you were pushing me to marry Marcus to save your pathetic business?" Madison stormed in, phone in hand, ready to record the drama. "Daddy, what's happening?" "What's happening?" I said, my voice steady, "is that your precious daddy married Mom thinking she was the heir to my grandfather's fortune. But surprise, I own everything. The mansion, the properties, the money. All of it." "That's impossible." Mom's voice broke. "Dad would never." "Never what?" "Protect his assets from a daughter who abandoned her child for status. He watched you change, Mom. Watched you choose Richard and Madison over me. So he made sure his fortune went to someone who actually cared about family, not social climbing." Richard lunged toward me, but a firm hand caught his shoulder. Marcus stepped into the room, James right behind him. "I wouldn't do that, Richard," Marcus said coldly. "The FBI tends to frown on assaulting people while under investigation for fraud." Madison's phone clattered to the floor. "What investigation?" she whispered. James pulled out his laptop, his expression deadly calm. "Show them, Marcus." "With pleasure," Marcus replied. "You see, Richard, while you were busy trying to force a merger through Angela, you didn't realize I was working with a forensic accounting team. We have everything, the embezzlement, the offshore accounts, even Madison's little sabotage campaign against Angela's real estate firm." Richard's face turned purple with rage. You were working with them," he spat, pointing at me. "No, Richard," I said with icy clarity. "They were working for me. This is my house. Remember?" Mom collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "Angela, baby, I'm so sorry. I remember when you were little how we used to bake cookies in the kitchen. Remember? We can fix this. Start over. Like you tried to fix my face this morning, or my reputation last week. Save your Oscar performance, Mom. I've watched you choose them over me for 3 years. But I'm your mother," she cried. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "A mother protects her child. A mother loves unconditionally. You're just another social climber who got played at her own game." Richard made a dash for the door, but security guards were waiting. Marcus nodded to the officers. "Mr. Thompson, you're under arrest for financial fraud and embezzlement," one of them said. As they led Richard away, Madison screamed, "This is all your fault. I'll tell everyone what you did." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Tell them how you sabotaged your stepsister while living in her house, spending her money. I'm sure the country club will love that story." Mom reached for my hand one last time, her voice trembling. Please, Angela, I can change. We can be a family again. I looked down at her tear-streaked face, remembering every slap, every insult, every betrayal. You're right, Mom, I said softly. Things are going to change, starting with your living arrangements. Get out of my house. All of you. James put his arm around my shoulders as they left, Madison's sobs echoing down the hallway. You okay? I touched the property papers, my grandfather's final gift of protection. I am now. I finally am. The morning my family moved out was eerily quiet, the sound of expensive luggage scraping across marble floors the only echo in the mansion. Richard faced years in prison, not just for defrauding me, but for a string of other scams Marcus had spent years uncovering. Your father's files just came in from the FBI, James said, dropping a thick folder on my desk. Marcus built this case for years. He just needed the right moment. Sarah, now the hotel manager, brought in coffee, her crisp uniform a badge of her fresh start. Madison's once envied social circle had collapsed entirely. People don't take kindly to discovering their friend lived off her stepsister's generosity while spreading lies about her. A headline on my tablet caught my eye. Former socialite Eleanor William now serving at local diner. The same diner where she had thrown wine at a server last Christmas. Karma has impeccable timing. The mansion's transformation into the William Heritage Hotel was my first real victory. The kitchen where Mom had slapped me now housed a 5-star restaurant. Each renovation felt like reclaiming another piece of myself. Mom tried one last time, showing up in her waitress uniform. Please, Angela, we can start over, she begged, tears streaking her face. No, Mom, you're not sorry, you're desperate. I handed her a debt repayment schedule. You'll pay back every penny Richard stole. That's the only relationship we'll ever have now, strictly business. As security escorted her out, a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lifted. The hotel exceeded all expectations. Sarah managed it with brilliance and James handled the financial side with his usual expertise. My personal victory, though, came 3 months later. Ready to see your new house? James asked, dangling a set of keys. The modern beachfront property stood gleaming in the sunset, its floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the golden light. Private beach access, open spaces, most importantly, no memories of abuse within its walls. The previous owner was asking $2 million, James mentioned as we walked through the airy living room. Worth every penny, I said, stepping onto the balcony and breathing in the ocean air. To never see Mom's crocodile tears or Madison's smug sneer again. Sarah joined us later, a bottle of champagne in hand. We toasted in the bright, welcoming kitchen, raising our glasses. To karma, she said. To fresh starts, I added, watching the waves crash against the shore. My phone buzzed on the counter, a missed call from Mom. I didn't bother checking it. Some people don't deserve second chances. The next morning, the paper featured 2 stories. The soaring success of the William Heritage Hotel and Richard's extended sentence for additional fraud. I read both from my beach chair, the sound of waves lapping against the shore, finally at peace in a home that was truly mine. No toxic family, no manipulation. Just me and a life I built from the ashes they tried to bury me in. Hi everyone, I'm Eva, a nurse at Memorial Hospital. I've dedicated my life to helping others, but now I'm the one who needs support. Life wasn't always this messy. 5 years ago, when I married Derek, I thought I found my soulmate. He was charming, successful, and made me feel like I was his world. But that dream didn't last long, especially once his sister, Rita, became a constant presence. You're skipping dinner again? That's the 3rd time this month, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter as Derek grabbed his keys. Rita needs help setting up her new TV. You know she's hopeless with tech, he replied casually. She's 38, not 80. There's YouTube for that. Don't start, Vic. She's family. That's how it always went. Rita called, and Derek dropped everything. Last week, it was curtains during my birthday dinner. The week before, an entire Sunday spent rearranging her furniture. I don't think this is right, Eva, Marina, my best friend, said during a lunch break at the hospital. Derek barely lets you see your family anymore. He says they're too critical of our relationship, I muttered. Because they see what's happening, James, my coworker, added, flipping through patient charts. Remember when he made you skip your sister's baby shower because Rita had a dating crisis? And it wasn't just Rita. His mother, Jane, was in on it too. Rita just needs her brother, dear. You should be more understanding, Jane said at dinner one night, handing me a bowl of potatoes. That was 3 years ago, I said, my patience wearing thin. Family comes first, Eva, Jane replied, while Rita smirked, clinging to Derek's arm. Right, baby brother. Later that night, as Derek spent hours on the phone with Rita, I tried to suggest visiting my parents. Your mom always gives Rita these looks, he said dismissively. I don't like how your family treats her. They treat her the way she treats me, I shot back. There you go again, jealous of my sister. She needs me. Standing in front of the bedroom mirror, I barely recognized myself. The spark in my eyes was gone, replaced by exhaustion. Marina's earlier words echoed. You're becoming a ghost of yourself. Now, as I sit at the nurse's station during my night shift, I watch Derek's phone light up with yet another text from Rita. Some emergency about a garbage disposal. I used to believe marriage meant being someone's priority. In Derek's world, it's a competition with his sister, and I'm always losing. You know this isn't normal, right? James said quietly, dropping a patient file on my desk. I nodded slowly, realizing he was right, but admitting that meant facing the cracks in my marriage, and I wasn't sure I was ready. Hours later, driving home through a downpour, my thoughts spiraled as fast as the rain blurred my windshield. Then it happened. A truck veered into my lane. My car spun violently, crashing into the guardrail. Derek, please pick up, I begged, leaving yet another voicemail. My ribs throbbed and my hands trembled. 911. What's your emergency? I'm on Highway 27 near exit 43. Please hurry, I gasped. As I waited for the ambulance, tears blurred my vision. Derek's voicemail greeted me every time I called. Desperate, I texted Marina. Eva, I'm on my way, she replied immediately, her voice cracking when she called me back. 4 hours later, lying in a hospital bed with a concussion and 3 broken ribs, I finally got a text from Derek. Sorry, helping Rita move her bedroom set. What's up? What's up? What's up? James was checking my vitals when Derek finally arrived, 5 hours after the accident. Baby, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice dripping with guilt. Rita really needed help with the move. You know how her back gets. I could have died, Derek. Don't be so dramatic. The doctor said you'll be fine. I got here faster than you, and I was in Boston on business. Marina interrupted, her phone discreetly recording everything. Moments later, Rita burst into the room, her dramatic entrance making the moment about herself. Oh my God, Derek, I feel terrible. If I'd known Eva was hurt, I would have let you check your phone, she exclaimed. I've been so stressed about this move, I'm probably going to need anxiety medication now. It's okay, sis, Eva's fine, Derek assured her. Just a few bruises, broken ribs, and a concussion. Actually, James interjected, making notes on my chart. Those injuries are quite serious. See, she's in good hands, Derek replied dismissively, turning his full attention back to Rita. So, about that living room set. I lay there in pain, helpless and watching. Marina squeezed my hand and subtly showed me her phone. I've been documenting everything for when you're ready, she whispered. This isn't love, honey. That night, as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I overheard Derek in the hallway. No, Rita, of course I'm not mad at you. Yes, I can help you arrange the furniture tomorrow. Eva? The doctors say she's fine. Just being dramatic, as usual. When James came in to check on me during his shift change, he leaned in close. I've documented everything in your medical records, the delayed emergency contact response, the timestamps, everything. Marina's got it all recorded, too. For the first time, something inside me hardened. When Marina visited the next day, I asked her to bring me a voice-activated recorder. Bring it tomorrow, I whispered. I'm done being the understanding wife. As I recovered at home, I started combing through our financial records. The first red flag was the joint account, thousands of dollars missing every month. A pattern emerged: Rita's car payments, Rita's rent, Rita's emergency fund. Hey, babe, what's this $5,000 transfer to Rita last week? I asked casually over dinner. Oh, she needed help with some bills. You know how tough things are for her. Tough enough to need $45,000 this year alone. You're counting my money now. Real nice, Eva. That night, I called Marina. You won't believe what I found. Girl, I've got something too, Marina said. Remember Lisa from Derek's office? She told me Rita did the same thing with Derek's ex-fiancée, Jennifer. Convinced him Jennifer was cheating, she wasn't. Let me guess. Rita made it all up. Exactly. She's been playing this game for years. The next day, James introduced me to his sister Rachel. I'm a divorce attorney, Rachel said, sliding her card across the table. James told me everything. Keep that recorder running. And I did. Every dismissive comment, every questionable financial decision, every gaslighting conversation. The recordings revealed everything. I don't know why you're making such a big deal about the accident, Derek's voice played back. Rita needed me. At a family dinner, Rita sneered. My brother deserves so much better. Ava's just not family material. The worst came from our neighbor Amy. Derek told everyone at the block party that you're unstable, that you make up emergencies for attention. Marina helped me set up a hidden email account to store everything, photos of bank statements, text messages, and recordings. I even captured Derek and Rita laughing about my accident. She always exaggerates, Derek chuckled. Probably barely a fender bender, Rita added, her voice dripping with contempt. I played the perfect wife while collecting evidence. Of course, Rita can borrow more money, honey. I'd say with a smile. But behind the scenes, I was building my case. This is a clear pattern of emotional and financial abuse, Rachel said during one of our secret lunch meetings. The recordings of him downplaying your accident? Gold. How much longer do I need to pretend? I asked. Just a little more. We're building an airtight case. That night, Derek skipped dinner again. Rita needed help picking paint colors. I kissed him goodbye and smiled. Take all the time you need, I said sweetly. Little did he know, every word, every missing dollar, every moment he chose Rita over me was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. The perfect wife was keeping perfect records. I waited until Derek left for another one of Rita's emergencies before making my move. The divorce papers were ready, my new apartment secured, and every piece of evidence safely stored in multiple locations. You've been served. The process server caught Derek at his office. His panic calls started immediately. What is this? Are you crazy? Check your email, I replied calmly. I've documented everything. That same week, Rita's perfectly orchestrated world began to crumble. Someone tipped off the IRS about her years of unreported income. Those endless loans from Derek? Turns out she'd been running a small business under the table, dodging taxes along the way. Did you know about this? Derek screamed into the phone. They're auditing me because of Rita. As if that wasn't enough, his company launched its own investigation. They discovered Derek had been embezzling funds to support Rita's lavish lifestyle. Watching him being escorted out of his office, humiliated and defeated, was surreal. Divorce court was a masterpiece. My lawyer presented everything: the recordings, financial records, and medical documents from the accident. Mr. Thompson, can you explain why you gave your sister $45,000 while your wife was in the hospital? Derek couldn't explain. He couldn't explain anything. 2 years later, I'm sitting in my office, the name Eva Thompson, head nurse, proudly displayed on the door. Life looks very different now. Rita is serving 3 years for tax evasion and fraud. Derek, he lost his job, his reputation, and most of his money to Rita's legal fees. Last week, he showed up at the hospital. Eva, please, he begged. I've changed. Rita's in prison. I've lost everything. I need you. Like I needed you when I was lying in a ditch after that accident. I asked, my voice cold. That was different. No, it wasn't. Goodbye, Derek. I watched him shuffle away, broken and alone. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. I've got a Caribbean cruise booked next month, a promotion on the horizon, and friends who have my back. Marina and I had lunch yesterday. Remember when you thought you couldn't live without him? She said, laughing. Now I can't imagine living with him, I replied. The karma train hit the Thompson siblings hard. Rita writes to Derek, begging for commissary money he doesn't have. Their mother had to sell her house to cover legal fees. And me? I'm flourishing. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well and watching karma do its thing. To anyone stuck in a toxic relationship, document everything, know your worth, and don't be afraid to walk away. The view is much better on the other side. Another donation to the domestic violence shelter, James asked as he saw me writing a check. Yeah, I replied, smiling. Someone helped me get out. It's time to pay it forward. That's my story, from gaslighted wife to empowered survivor. Derek and Rita can keep their toxic family dynamic behind bars and broke. If you discovered your spouse prioritized their siblings' non-emergencies over your actual emergencies, what would you do? Would you try to fix the relationship first, or would you start planning your escape? Where would you draw the line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming toxic relationships. Your support means everything. My name's Amy, a 24-year-old junior accountant from Chicago. On the surface, I'm just another young professional trying to make her way. Behind closed doors, I live a nightmare. My controlling mother, Sarah, and my 27-year-old unemployed brother, Mike, treat me like I'm the live-in maid. Every morning starts the same. 5:30 a.m., I'm up, making breakfast. Emmy, where's my coffee? 2 sugars, you know that. Mike's voice bellows from his room. I'm late for work, make it yourself. I snap, slamming a mug onto the counter. Mom, Amy's being disrespectful again. Within seconds, Mom storms into the kitchen, fury in her eyes. Emmy, how many times do I have to tell you to take care of your brother? Make his coffee. Now. This is my reality. I work full-time, pay half the bills, and handle all the housework. Meanwhile, Mike lounges in his gaming chair all day, demanding attention. At work, my exhaustion doesn't go unnoticed. Girl, you look dead, my coworker Rachel says, eyeing me as I shuffle into the office. Rough morning. The usual. Mom made me remake Mike's coffee 3 times because it wasn't perfect enough. I mutter, sinking into my chair. Rachel shakes her head. You need to get out of there. A small kindness saves the day. David, another coworker, sets a cup of steaming coffee on my desk. Thought you might need this. Real coffee, not whatever your brother complains about, he says with a smirk. I smile, clutching the cup like a lifeline. They don't know about my secret savings account. I've been setting aside 30% of every paycheck. Just $55,000 more, and I'll be free. That night, everything boils over. Mike barges into my room, his entitled sneer in full display. Give me your car keys. I'm meeting friends. No way. I need my car for work tomorrow. It's not like your job is important. You're just a junior accountant. At least I have a job. I snap. His face turns crimson. Mom, Amy's disrespecting me again. Mom appears, arms crossed, ready for battle. Amy, give your brother the keys. No, I've had enough. I've been serving him since we were kids. You made me skip my high school graduation to cook for his gaming party. You gave him my college fund because he needed it more. Mom's expression hardens, her voice icy. I'm your mother. As long as you live under my roof. That I help pay for, I interject. Don't interrupt me, your brother is special. He needs support while he figures out his path. Now hand him the keys or start looking for somewhere else to live. I clutch my keys tighter, feeling years of suppressed anger rise to the surface. No, for once in my life no. Mom's gaze turns glacial. Fine, then make your own dinner tonight. And don't touch anything in my kitchen. As they storm out, I sit in a suffocating silence, my phone screen lighting up. $15,000 saved. Just a little longer. I text Rachel. Start looking for those apartment listings. I'm done. But the power play escalates. The next morning, I find every cabinet in the kitchen locked with padlocks. Mom stands there, arms crossed. Until you apologize to your brother and give him your car, you won't be eating in this house. This is insane. I pay for half the groceries. Should have thought about that before disrespecting your brother, she snaps. 3 days pass. I survive on protein bars and snacks I've stashed in my desk at work. My hands shake as I type. During lunch, Rachel notices. Emmy, when's the last time you ate a real meal? She whispers. Sunday, Mom locked the kitchen. Rachel's eyes widen. This is abuse. Before I can respond, my vision blurs. I grab the desk for support, But it's too late. David rushes over, catching me before I hit the ground. In the break room, they force me to eat a sandwich as I recount everything. When Dad died, his insurance was supposed to be split between Mike and me. Mom gave him my share because he needed it more. I had to drop 3 college classes to babysit his dog. It's always been like this. David's job tightens. You need evidence. This isn't normal. That night, Mike corners me in the hallway. I press record on my phone, the device hidden in my pocket. Listen here, you ungrateful. Mom should have thrown you out years ago. You're nothing. I'm not just a maid who pays bills. I'm Amy, the maid who's done being used. Get out of my way, Mike. I snap, trying to sidestep him in the hallway. Mom appears right on cue, arms crossed and seething. You will apologize to your brother right now, or you can pack your bags. I won't tolerate this disrespect in my house. Remember who took care of you after your father died. Took care of me. I glare at her, my voice trembling with fury. You stole my inheritance, made me drop out of college, and now you're starving me because I won't let your precious son take my car. Your brother deserves everything he has, she spits back. You're just jealous because he's special. Special? He's a 27-year-old leech. The slap cracks through the hallway. My cheek burns, but inside I'm smiling. I got it all on tape. Later, alone in my room, I play the recording back. My hands shake, but this time it's not from hunger. It's from resolve. Rachel was right. This isn't family. This is abuse. And now I have proof. I forward the recording to Rachel and David, then save it to my secret cloud drive. They want to break me. Fine. But they have no idea I'm already planning their downfall. Each threat, each insult, each slap, they're all evidence. And soon, very soon, they'll learn that karma is a force to be reckoned with. I found the perfect place. Rachel squeals during our lunch break. 2-bedroom apartment, safe neighborhood, and guess what? It's within your budget. David joins us grinning. And I've got even better news. Remember Tom from Johnson & Associates? They're hiring a senior accountant. Pays 40% more than what you're making now. Tears prick my eyes. You guys, my voice cracks with emotion. That night, while organizing Mom's bank statements for the bills, something catches my eye. Large withdrawals from her savings account. Thousands of dollars I never knew existed. Hey Mom, did you authorize these withdrawals? I ask, confronting her as she steps into the kitchen. Her face pales as she snatches the papers from my hand. What were you doing snooping through my accounts? I always handle the bills, remember? There's over $20,000 missing. Her eyes narrow. You've been stealing from me. What? No, I'd never. First you disrespect your brother, and now you're stealing. Get out of my sight. Later that night, while Mom's at her book club, I dig deeper into the accounts. Every trail leads to Mike. Multiple transfers to online gambling sites. Thousands gone. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Is this Amy? I'm Lisa, Mike's ex. I saw your post about looking for an apartment. We meet the next day at a coffee shop. Lisa's hands shake as she slides a folder across the table. Mike scammed me out of $115,000 last year, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. Said he was starting a business. He's done this to 3 other girls. I have proof, bank statements, texts, everything. Why are you telling me this? I ask. Because he's doing it again. I saw him with a new girl last week, using the same lines he used on me. Over the next week, I execute my escape plan. Each day while Mom's at her book club, I move small boxes to my new apartment. Rachel stores my important documents at her place. David helps me prep for my interview at Johnson & Associates. You're the perfect candidate, the hiring manager says. When can you start? That night, while copying files from Mom's computer, I stumble across years of damning evidence, emails about Mike's gambling, angry messages from scam victims, even screenshots of him bragging about stealing my inheritance. What are you doing? Mike's voice startles me. I swivel in my chair, keeping my expression neutral. Just getting the tax documents Mom asked for. Better not be snooping, sis. Would be a shame if Mom had to kick you out with nowhere to go. I smile sweetly. Don't worry, brother dear. Everything's exactly where it should be. In my room, I save all the files to my cloud drive. Mom's financial records showing Mike's theft. Lisa's evidence of his scams, recordings of their abuse, photos of the locked kitchen, my weight loss, and the bruise from Mom's slap. Rachel texts, "Apartment's ready when you are." David follows up, "Job offer coming tomorrow." Lisa updates, "Mike's been arrested. Police found evidence of fraud against 5 women. They're investigating his gambling debts too." I glance around my childhood room, now nearly empty except for the furniture. They thought they were breaking me. Instead, they taught me how to be smarter, stronger, and more cunning. "Are you sure you packed everything?" Rachel asks, helping me load the last box into the moving truck. "Everything that matters." Before we leave, I place a thick manila envelope on Mom's pristine dining table. Inside, evidence of Mike's theft, his fraud schemes, and screenshots of his gambling addiction. 2 days later, my phone explodes with notifications. "You ungrateful witch. Where are you? How dare you abandon your family?" Mom's voicemail screams. A text from Lisa makes me smile. "Mike's been arrested. They've got enough to press charges." I sit at my new desk at Johnson Associates when David rushes in. His face is pale. "Your mom's house is crawling with police," he says. Apparently, the neighbors finally reported all the screaming they've heard. Something about an elder abuse investigation. Karma works in mysterious ways. I smile faintly and turn back to my spreadsheets. Months pass. Through Rachel, I hear the fallout. Mom lost the house. Turns out Mike had secretly remortgaged it for his gambling debts, using forged papers, with nowhere else to go. She's forced to move in with Aunt Janet. "You can't just throw your mother away," Aunt Janet scolds over the phone one afternoon. "Sarah made mistakes, but she's still your mother." Mistakes. My voice is calm but firm. "She locked me out of food for days, stole my inheritance, and made me a servant while Mike robbed her blind. She's suffering now. Living with her wasn't easy either." 1 year later, I stand in the living room of my very own home, a cozy townhouse I bought with my promotion bonus. David's arms wrap around me, his engagement ring catching the sunlight streaming through the windows. "Look what came," Rachel says, handing me a tear-stained letter. It's from Mom. "My dearest Amy, I'm sorry for everything. Please come home. I need you." I drop the letter into the shredder without reading further. Through the window, I watch kids playing in the street. Free, happy, safe. Things I never was in that house. "Your mom's still asking about you," David asks, pressing a kiss to my temple. "She's not my mom anymore," I reply, my voice steady. "Just someone who taught me what kind of parent I'll never be." My phone buzzes with a text from Lisa. "Mike got 5 years. Thought you'd want to know." I smile and delete the message. On my desk at work, a shiny new nameplate reads, "Senior Financial Analyst." My fridge is always full. My doors have no locks, except the ones I control. "Ready for dinner?" Rachel calls from the kitchen. David's attempting to cook. "Hey, I'm getting better." David protests. I laugh, really laugh, the kind of laugh that was never allowed in my old house. They thought they were breaking me. Instead, they showed me my own strength. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. And me? I'm finally gloriously free. What would you do if faced with the choice between financial stability and confronting a toxic family member? Would you stay silent to keep a roof over your head, or risk it all to stand up for yourself like I did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to hear more stories of survival and justice. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought behind closed doors, but you are not alone.